From his incredible rise as the Ultimate Fighter winner to his upcoming fight against Bobby Green at UFC 291, here's what happened with Tony Ferguson's career. Let's go back to the beginning. So, Tony's journey started with his appearance on The Ultimate Fighter. And guess what? He caught the eye of none other than Brock Lesnar, who chose to coach him. Honestly, Ferguson would always be on fire during the tournament, knocking out every opponent he faced. Inside the octagon, he was a force to be reckoned with, and that fierce nature extended beyond the cage too. Like, there was this one unforgettable moment in The Ultimate Fighter when Tony had a few too many drinks in the team house and ended up getting into a fight with one of his teammates. It all started innocently enough with a harmless prank involving pouring water on Tony's head, but in his drunk state, he took it to the next level and tackled his teammate. Mind you, he didn't even want to make peace when his team member tried to apologize. And just when you thought things couldn't get crazier, Ferguson started bringing up personal stuff, like the custody battle involving that member's son. Well, he crossed a line there. Now, as you can imagine, this whole incident turned into a huge mess with other players getting involved. Anyways, he eventually won The Ultimate Fighter. But one thing's clear, his time in the show gave us a glimpse of a different side of Tony, one that was unpredictable and harder to control. And trust me, this side would become even more evident in his future. With that said, he eventually joined the UFC, and his early fights were pretty impressive. In fact, he scored a TKO win against Aaron Riley and followed it up with a decision victory over Yves Edwards. But then came his next fight against Michael Johnson, who was on point with his perfect strikes and seemed to have a slight advantage in speed. Frankly speaking, it was a tough battle for Tony, as Johnson landed some hard shots on him consistently. After this loss, he went on an incredible winning streak of 12 fights. That solidified his reputation as a truly fierce fighter in the UFC, and within that streak, some truly incredible showdowns left a lasting impression. Like, one standout moment was his victory over Glyzon Taibo with a rear naked choke, showing his impressive submission skills. Another memorable fight was his intense bloody clash with Edson Barbosa, which ended with Tony securing a submission win. And how can I forget the famous triangle choke he pulled off on Kevin Lee, earning himself the interim lightweight belt. Sure, these showdowns were incredible to say the least, but nothing can match his epic fight against Anthony Pettis. You see, it was rightly crowned the fight of the year in 2018. After all, both fighters displayed incredible strength, even at the lowest points. Now, the most surreal moment in the fight came when their faces were wiped clean of blood, and they shared a smile before continuing to battle it out. I mean, I had goosebumps. In the end, the fight was stopped when Pettis' corner threw in a towel due to his injured hand, and so Tony came out victorious in a truly unforgettable moment. Still, Tony's winning streak reached a new peak with his merciless beatdown of Cowboy Cerrone. Basically, the fight had to be called off because Cowboy's right eye was completely closed due to the continuous attacks he faced. During this time, a picture circulated within the UFC community featuring Tony's last 7 opponents, and it looked like something out of a horror movie. It truly showed the level of brutality that he brought to the octagon. Sure, his incredible fighting skills already had everyone in awe, but the fighter also won over fans outside of the cage with his weird personality and memorable quotes. Moving on, let's talk about his last fight with Nate Diaz. On paper, this matchup seemed like an exciting clash between the two beloved fighters, but it was clear that both fighters weren't in their prime, which added a unique twist to the showdown. Alright, once the bell rang, Ferguson wasted no time and immediately established his dominance in the octagon. You see, his incredible pressure and fancy footwork left no doubt that he was there to win. But Diaz wasn't going to be taken lightly either. In fact, he showed incredible courage and absorbed Tony's initial attacks, and then fired back with his dangerous strikes. Neither of the fighters were ready to back down. Okay, so there was a moment when Nate struggled to find his rhythm, clearly feeling the pressure of Tony's attacks. After all, Diaz was constantly being pushed to his limits round after round. Still, both of them were giving everything they had inside the ring. Now, when the winner was announced, interestingly, it was Nate who came out on top. But Ferguson's performance also proved that he could overcome any challenge. Anyways, this could have been a decent end to his career, but his strange behavior only started to get him in trouble from here. Back in 2019, his wife Christina filed a restraining order against him, alleging that he had engaged in violent behavior within their home, damaging and throwing objects. To add to that, the recorded call made by Christina to emergency services even made its way onto TMZ, and it was disturbing to say the least. To make things worse, Worse, she even expressed concern for the safety of the responding police officers, given the fact that Tony was a professional fighter. In the call, she described his behavior as both out of character and distressing, even mentioning that he poured holy water on her. As more details were reported, it became known that Tony had been experiencing manic episodes and paranoia, as shared by Christina during TMZ interviews. She also revealed that he'd referred to his son as Jesus Christ, and even claimed to be the second coming of Jesus himself. Yeah, you heard that right. Now, I'd like to mention that he didn't display any violent behavior toward his wife and children. Still, his weird conduct led to the issuance of a restraining order, which was later dropped within the same year. Now, if you're thinking he's changed, think again, because Ferguson recently caught himself in another disturbing incident. Actually, he was arrested for driving under the influence, which led to a horrible crash involving his truck rolling over and damaging 2 parked cars. Ouch! Luckily, despite the intensity of the crash, Tony and the other passengers reported no injuries. Turns out, he ran out of luck as soon as the police arrived on the scene. According to the eyewitnesses, Ferguson had a strong smell of alcohol and bloodshot eyes that could rival a vampire's. Hold on, the plot thickens. When the fighter was asked to take a breathalyzer test, he straight up refused to do so. No wonder he found himself on the wrong side of the law and was arrested on suspicion of drunk driving. To add to the drama, one of the cars he crashed into belonged to rapper Cash Gotti. Clearly, this unexpected turn of events left his fans shocked. Well, the arrest took place in California, but the fighter was eventually released on bail worth $30,000. David Martin, a writer for MMA Fighting, provided some insight into the potential legal outcomes in cases like this. The thing is that in California, misdemeanor DUI charges usually result in a fine and can also involve alcohol rehabilitation and educational programs as an alternative to imprisonment. It's clear that Tony has been going through some dark times and he needs serious help. According to his wife, this type of behavior has affected him since his victory on The Ultimate Fighter. That means he's been battling these inner demons throughout his entire career. Now, as far as what's next for Tony, let me tell you that he's been booked for his comeback fight at UFC 291. Yep, despite the ongoing legal issues, Ferguson has officially been booked for his next fight. And guess what? He's set to face Bobby Green at UFC 291, scheduled to take place on July 29th at the Vivint Arena in Salt Lake City. The announcement was made by UFC President Dana White, and fans are eagerly waiting for the showdown. Known for his entertaining performances inside the octagon, Tony has always managed to capture the audience's attention with his unique style. As for Bobby, he aims to shine and make his mark in this highly anticipated matchup. While there haven't been any recent updates from Green, there's a lighthearted video making rounds on Twitter featuring Tony. In the clip, he can be seen playfully working out his eyebrows. And you know what? He's trying to mimic Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's iconic eyebrow raise. No doubt it's important for fighters to relax and reduce some of the pressure while training. And it seems that Tony's just doing that. So there you have it. From his upcoming fight against Bobby Green at UFC 291 to his incredible rise as the Ultimate Fighter winner, that's what happened to Tony Ferguson's career.